Hey guys, welcome back to God's Little Acre and our brand new channel created by Divine Design. The reason behind that is because God has a perfect design and He created it for you and He created it for me to be able to live and move and exist in His creation. Okay, so today Patriot Gallery has set this all up for you guys. Today I'm just literally her hands and her mouth. Okay, speaking of mouth, we've got wide mouth jars. And we've got small mouth jars. This jar right here is a spaghetti sauce jar. Don't throw it away. You don't even have to store Grandpa's screws and nails in it. You can literally use it to recan with as long as the ring at the top. Some of them you can't, but this specific Classico mason jar, it's got the ounces along the side. It literally will say mason along the side there. You can use it as a mason jar. We've been canning with those for years. We always save those specific spaghetti sauce jars. Also, when it comes to canning, because a lot of you are going to get started into canning this year, maybe you already have, maybe this was the first year for your garden and you've got all sorts of things coming in. I'm going to show you some of our end of the year harvest that we have, and you don't know what to do with it, and you want to preserve for the zombie apocalypse or just for the fun of it. You're going to get started in canning, and there's a couple of tips that Patriot Gallery wanted me to pass on to you guys that we've learned over the years that you're going to recognize. So, what we have here is, this is one of the Classico spaghetti sauce lids.
You can reuse them.
You can reuse these, but I want to put a caveat on that because I don't ever want to be held responsible. You need to know if what you can, regardless of what equipment, what lids you're using, when you open up a jar, if it doesn't smell right, it's not right. Okay? Okay, when your jar has sealed, that popping thing goes down. If this lid, these that comes with this, has popped down and sealed and is still sealed, when you go to get it out, it's just as good and likely to be good as any of the others. Now, there is always a chance when you're canning, it's very, very rare, that you've canned something and some little bit of bacteria got in there and that jar is just no good. Your chances of this or a regular lid are the same as long as they both seal down. But just always be aware when you're canning at home, there's the possibility, we've opened up jars, it's not good, it's not worth it, toss it out.
When in doubt, throw it out.
When in doubt, throw it out. That's excellent. So, speaking of these actual lids, I don't know if you can see from there, so I'm going to bring it to you. This lid has a little bit of rust in it. A little bit of rust isn't too bad. You can usually scrub most of that off. It's not going to be that important because you're going to be using, this is actually a band. You're going to be using a lid. Let me get the...
I don't know if I have any small bands out here.
No, it's fine. This is a wide mouth one. This is the sealing process, okay? This underneath here is really the only thing that ever has contact with your food. The only reason that the band is there, and I'll just use a jar that's already got it here as an example, okay, is to seal down, to make sure that that doesn't pop down, to give it that nice tight. So when you're going to can, I don't know, yep, she's got it here. Some lids, and this is I'm glad we're doing this video because I want to tell you something about these new lids that they have out there. The old lids and other lids, this is a magnet. You would put in warm water, heat it to kind of a significant warmth.
Sterilize it.
There's a temperature. It'll be in your blue ball book of canning, which we don't have out right now.
You
but
get it on the computer too.
It'll tell you. You just want to get it warm enough so that this is malleable. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to reach into your little pan and get out your lid after you've done your canning. This specific tool right here is to get rid of your air bubbles. You don't want any air bubbles in there, so you kind of move it about. And it's also your headspace gauge. That's 1/4 inch, we got a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch. Each recipe will tell you how much headspace to have in what you're canning. Standard is usually a 1/2 inch. You can't really go wrong with that, okay?
We'll show you this later and we'll do it.
What you're going to do is you're going to put this on and carefully let go of the magnet, and then you'll put this on. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to showcase that now, while we're talking about this, is how do you know when your bands are too far gone? Okay, they do get rusty over the years. You want to just make sure that you kind of scrub off some of that rust, But as long as it'll give you a nice, good, tight seal, it'll go down on that lid good, you're good.
SOS pad or
An SOS
steel
pad will
wool.
get it off.
Yeah.
There are lots of Pinterest craft projects, like making little wreaths out of expired ball jar canning bands. So there is that. So that's kind
You
of.
want to do the
covers
rest of those bands over there?
You want me to bring them
No,
close? I can bring them
the
close.
broken ones. And now we're going to recycle them.
Oh yeah, that's right. The lids. So this one right here, what we use. Here we go. Sometimes and it's a good thing. You get it sealed on there so tight that unless you are a man with just rough fingernails and hands and all that, it's hard to get it off. So when you use this,
A bottle opener.
the bottle opener, it creates this little dimple there. You can still
you
use
see that
some
real well.
with the dimple, but this right here is what I have a problem with. When it does that, I don't trust it. There's also a bend right here, because the reason why this is no good is because it's not gonna. Can you see
It's
that?
wobbly.
It's not gonna create a flat seal. So that's why these are no good. But it actually even happens when I do just use it with my hands. You just kind of bend it backwards. Sometimes you can reuse them, sometimes you can't. So
Recycle.
we will recycle these.
You can show them the container. I just keep it by my jars.
Right. You can use these for other various lid things. You got old jars, you want to store something in it, the lid will still work. The rusted ones, okay, for depending on what you're doing, right? If it's a craft
Screws,
project,
nuts.
screws and nuts and bolts and stuff like that.
But we recycle ours.
Right, exactly. So that covers the bands and the lids, and we've got our wide mouth jars and our narrow mouth jars. Right here we have, you can buy your lids and bands in a box like this that will come one lid and one band per whatever. But if you have, what happens a lot of times is your bands last longer than your lids, so you'll be buying a box of these. Now, what I was mentioning earlier, and I hope Patriot Galler, when you do your episode, you'll remind them these new ball lids that have just come out tell you just to wash them and rinse them. They're ready to use. You do not want to heat them up. They're called the Sure Tight lids. If it says Sure Tight, do not heat in water before you use them.
And we'll be using soap and water on all the jars, and everything just needs soap and water to clean.
Well, yes and no. A lot of times you want to sterilize your jar. Almost always you want to sterilize your jars first. Some people say you can do that in the dishwasher. Mom, can you shut that fridge door? It depends on how good you feel about your dishwasher. Let's put it that way. But a lot of times we actually get this big pot out. We put in our basket, which is not here right now, and fill it with water. It's kind of heavy. You got to carry it to the
basket's
stove.
in the very bottom of the pan.
Is it? And sterilize the jars with boiling water. Okay? Because they tell you really want to put hot stuff in hot jars. So if you've sterilized your jars, whatever you're putting in your jars, you want it to be warm as well. So there's that. A couple other things that Patriot Galler wanted
Cold
me to
and
show
cold
off.
and hot and hot.
Cold and cold and hot and hot. Is Mom? Do you want to bring the thing?
Oh,
up
yeah.
when I do-
Okay.
when I do the big reveal.
Ready?
This is our harvest. This is so amazing, actually. Now, you really want to keep your bigger tomatoes on the. What is even going on with this tomato? It had a baby, apparently. You want to keep your biggest tomatoes on the bottom so they don't squish the little ones. But
That was just for show on top
yeah,
there.
she wanted to just to show you. There's nothing in this whole world like garden fresh tomatoes. So we've got that. We've got a lot of banana peppers. We've got over here some little green peppers, purple green peppers. I'm sure they have a name. Cucumbers, zucchini, yellow squash. These, let's see if I can pull one of these out here. You think this is a zucchini? Well, it's not a zucchini, okay? It is giant like one. It is a cucumber. Patriot Galler, are you going to use this today?
I'm going to can up some pickles.
I gotta show you. I gotta show them. This is an English cucumber. I'm gonna just cut it in half because I want you to see the seeds on this thing. They're really small. What happens is when you grow cucumbers that get really big and fat, the seeds are not yummy. But these English cucumbers are so fresh. They're great for pickling.
I think we have an extra large one in here.
No, I ate it yesterday.
Oh, okay. This is a normal pickle.
So you can get pickling cucumbers. These will have the tiny pickle type seeds
Yeah.
right there. But the regular standard cucumbers, I don't like at all.
There's another one there.
That's just
another English cucumber.
There's 3 of them here. There's 3 English cucumbers in this
that
thing.
one.
Well, I'm afraid everything's gonna go spilling down. When I
No,
do
no,
it.
not that one. The other one. It's bigger.
Okay.
She
Let's
that.
hold it. Look at this thing. Look at it. Okay, like it's my arm there. I mean, there you go.
This is the
And they
first time I
grow
did it.
like that in
A day.
like a couple days. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, is this one of them? What's this?
That is a zucchini that was in the fridge. That's why it's wet. Because we don't always have time. You really kind of want to build up what you're doing and then get ready to can. Now we cook with our zucchini. We cook with our yellow squash. We eat the fresh cucumbers and tomatoes on everything all the time. But you can also, Patriot Gallery wanted me to. This is fresh cilantro. You can make salsa. You can make spaghetti sauce. You can make, now if you want to make your spaghetti sauce, you will want to peel your tomatoes. And you can get something that's called a Roma. What's it called, Leah? The Roma processor, where it pushes it through. Kind of reminds you of a meat grinder.
Food mill.
A food mill. A meat grinder for, you can
It's
use
a
it
food mill for tomatoes.
grapes and tomatoes. And I think you could even put cooked apples in there too, to make like an applesauce. So we have one of those. We haven't actually used it in a while. It gets rid of the seeds, which is helpful for.
You
they
soften
kinda
it
have a
first
little
and you
bit of a
put
bitterness.
squash or anything through it.
Yeah, if it's as long as it's cooked. So let's see, what else was on the list here? When we're
Whole
going
tomatoes.
to make these whole tomatoes, are you going to make these whole tomatoes?
I'll make them Michelle's diced.
I like them diced because when I go to cook with them, they're going to be diced and then you can fit more in a jar, right? So in order to do that, you're going to core the tomatoes, take the inside out, any bad spots, obviously the stem there, and then you're going to put them in. You're going to blanch them in water to peel them. And your Patriot Gallery, you're going to.
I'm going to do it all. You'll see it done.
I don't need to describe
I was just going to tell
We're
them
gonna watch it.
up front.
And then she's going to dice them, put them in the jars.
Just to let people know the peels come off real easy.
But as soon
They
as
slide
you
off
put them in
like a
cold water.
pillowcase. Yeah,
You
cold
put them in
water.
cold water, because else you burn your fingers.
And your tomatoes will continue cooking if you
hey,
don't cool them down.
Patriot Gallery's really excited about the health benefit of cloves. She wanted me to remind
You want to
guys
cook
of
with
that.
cloves all the time.
You can cook with cloves all the time. They have a very strong, pungent Christmas flavor.
Yeah, you only need 1 or 2 in your
Yeah,
meal.
that says really strong
For
and
everybody.
intense. Like I might pass out. No, I'm just kidding. We were able to grow a ton on our what were you calling it, Mom?
A deck? What?
No, the deck. The Solomon's hanging gardens of
Hanging
Bible
Gardens
or something.
Solomon.
And so we were really excited about being able to just walk outside.
It's a
and
7th wonder of the world, the Hanging Gardens of
Our
Babylon
deck
or
is the
something.
7th wonder of the world.
Yeah.
Yes. However, Patriot Gallery and Leah have been going out to our 2 gardens early, especially this one, to beat the chickens. Because they will go and they will peck at the tomatoes even though we have them fenced out and they shouldn't be able to get in. But they have been. So, is there anything that I
The
missed?
garlic?
Oh, the garlic, that's right. So we grew garlic this year and you saw our braiding garlic video. Patriot Gallery wanted me to, what do you do with the little ones
Extras.
that fell off? They're extras, they're too small. We just keep them in a bowl and just use those right away first. I've been cooking with them all week. We actually have these are my favorite, the big giants. It's literally like the shape of an onion, but it's all garlic. And it's so easy to peel. Way, way easier than the standard one with the toes. And whose idea was the cooked toes, I don't know.
If you're going to do, you can do whole tomatoes, you can do diced tomatoes. If you do diced tomatoes, you buy them at the store whole, they won't have any flavoring. If you buy them diced, they might have some flavoring. So you can add some of your peppers.
What she means is the jars will say with basil or Mexican or whatever they say. They have actual flavoring in them. I can't just sit here and see these tomatoes and not eat them. They're just too good.
So we might add some peppers and stuff to our diced tomatoes.
We've done that historically. We've got several jars in the basement. We should have brought some up of tomatoes that we have, and I'll use them up, and I'll use jars of salsa in actual cooking because it's got the peppers, it's got the onions, it's got everything in it that I would want.
So we could add all these together.
We've got basil that we grew. We didn't dehydrate any of this.
And we have fresh basil too.
Fresh basil out there, parsley,
Fresh dill,
dill,
mustard seed.
mustard seed. We
That's
haven't
for the
harvested that
pickles.
yet. Right?
Well, I used some in the last time I made pickles.
Okay, that's cool. So, did I get everything?
Yeah, that's just it. What we can do with these
This is what we're going to do
and
today.
your harvest.
We're gonna, yes, this is a giant harvest. I mean, this is God's abundance.
It's 2 or 3 days. Yeah,
Woohoo. Can you see that?
yeah,
That's
it's a
so
very good
great.
picture.
Oh my gosh.
And we'll be back.
And we'll be back.
And
Hello, guys.
we'll actually do this. You can see us
Yes,
do
you don't want to miss it. Part, so we'll be back in a second. All right, you guys, we're back, and what we have done is cored all of our tomatoes. These are the ones that have not been processed yet. So these will go in a minute after we're done into our hot water. Once they're done in the hot water, you can come in here, Patriot Gallery, and I'll show you. This is a bowl of cold water and a lot of ice, a couple of trays of ice. So you can see already right off the bat that these are starting to fall off. It only takes about 60 seconds.
it. Sorry.
Nothing broke. It only takes about 60 seconds to 2 minutes for the skins to pop off. The reason why you put it in the cold water is because you want to get the skins off right away, but they're really hot and you will burn yourself. So be very, very careful.
And you don't want to cook the tomatoes.
And you don't want to cook the tomatoes. You want it to the cooking to stop immediately. So sometimes they stick a little bit harder than others, depending on the doneness of the tomato, and if there's a spot that we missed, like that right there, we're going to just get rid of that and it'll just pull out. So I do want to show you a couple more of these skins falling right off, because this is the magic right here, where they just come off. Now, a hint, which I told you about earlier, but didn't showcase. When you're coring your tomato and you take the center, like where the stem was attached to the tomato out, that's great. That's right there. We also cut off the tiny little spot at the bottom because
It'll actually stick
it'll hold your thing on, and it's just annoying. So you lose a tiny little bit of your tomato, and if you do it with finesse, you don't lose hardly any at all. So, all right, we've got plenty sitting here. And so what I like to do is a rough slice. And this is just so that they pack nicely in the jar. And so that when I go to cook with them, they are already pre-sliced. Like if you're going to put these in like a chili or something later on, you're going to want it to be already sliced. Because when you and some people want the whole stewed tomatoes, right? You might want your tomatoes just round. You flop them in there.
Why is this one a different color, Michelle?
This is a variegated variety. This is probably a heritage breed, if I had to guess. I don't know the exact name because we always get really excited about buying plants or ordering seeds.
Because this one is pure red, and that has different color, but that's done.
This is done.
A different.
The greenness in this tomato is not indicative of it not being done. It's literally the
We have another one over here.
color that it is, and that's a little bad spot I'm going to pull off. So let's take a
A lot of
minute.
your red tomatoes are not heritage tomatoes,
Exactly.
and you can't reuse the seeds.
Right.
Whereas if it's a heritage, you can reuse the seeds and save your own seeds.
I like to do this, and then all that water goes in there too.
We'll
It's not
save
really
the
water, it's
juice.
So
And
you
we
can
will make
can.
tomato juice.
Well, not just that, but you can either can your tomatoes in water, or you can can them, quote unquote, in your own juice. There will be directions in your, whichever you're using, for how to can. That's not what this video is, even though Patriot Gallery will probably put a link in the description for a good place to go to can.
Well, we like the standard is ball.
Yeah, the blue book.
Ball blue book.
Ours is filthy and disgusting for you from
We've used it so
the
much.
years of using it. But we will be canning these in their own juices. So I'm really excited about how many tomatoes we have this year, and it's all thanks to Patriot Gallery and Leah. From either starting seeds indoors, keeping them trimmed. Patriot Gallery was just out on the deck out there, yesterday, Mom? Trimming up the tomatoes, because here's the deal. If your tomatoes are putting out too much production into the plant, they're not putting out enough production into the actual tomato itself for growing a tomato. Another trick that you've learned this year, Mom, is Epsom salt. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
That will help to force a bloom. If you're,
I think it's baking soda forces the blooms, and Epsom salt is when you You have too much nitrogen. We didn't realize how much nitrogen because we get all our own fertilizer from manure. It was just too much nitrogen.
Well,
And then
and-
when you get a lot of green, you have lots of green on your plants when there's lots of nitrogen, but you don't have as much fruit.
Right.
So we have to put the Epsom salt down.
You want to adjust your alkalinity, your pH balance, and in your soil so that it does what you want it to do. Because your plant's going to grow. Depends on what it's going to grow, the tomato or the plant. So we'll be back here in a little bit, and we will show you the part where we start actually putting the tomatoes into the jars and canning them, which is always the really exciting. All right, you guys, here we are for our next step. We have all of our tomatoes completely de-skinned, and in this bowl, it is amazing how that big giant pot of tomatoes that we showed you gets reduced down to such a small amount. We've already done one jar to start with, and we're going to show you how we do our next. Now, be very careful when you're getting your jars out of your sanitized water because it's hot and you could burn yourself. So get your jar, put it close. This funnel, yours may not look like this. It may not have this extra ring around it. That's okay. The blue ball ones are good enough. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. You can use vinegar, or you can use lemon juice. There's a difference between pressure canning and standard water bath canning. Pressure canning is a pot that's similar to this. It's usually a thicker metal. It has a lid that has a rubber gasket on it. You put it on, it gets tightened down. It is sealed, and then it has a little gauge on top where steam comes out, and you have it, it's a weight. And you set it to a certain thing. Things can happen. Jars can explode. Kind of dangerous. Don't get freaked out. Anyone can water bath can. These are tomatoes. The reason why they don't need to be pressure canned is because they already have a very high level of acidity. So if you're going to can fruits and you're adding sugar or something like that, and your pectin and so on and so forth, you can go check out other videos that we have on that on our Mass Faith 3 channel in our God's Little Acre playlist. But for today, since we're doing the tomatoes, we're going to focus on the acid, which is why we need to add a little bit more acid than what the tomatoes have. We stick with lemon juice. You could use vinegar. The next thing that we're going to do is 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. This is fine kosher salt. You can use the thick stuff, just 1 teaspoon. So we've got 2 tablespoons of the lemon juice and 1 teaspoon of the kosher salt. Patriot Gallery, comment.
I forgot, this is a quart. You can also do them
In pints.
in pints. You just make everything half. So
You have it.
1 tablespoon and
And a
half,
half a teaspoon of the
Right.
salt. Excellent point.
1 tablespoon of,
We just go through a lot
lemon
of
juice.
tomatoes, and so it only
that
makes
would
sense
be a
to
waste
do
for us.
a whole jar. So you want to use a slotted spoon here, and you don't have to, but we just like to pack our jars as full
You'd
as we
end up
can.
with too much water.
You do end it, because what's going to happen, you'll find at the very end when we show you these jars, that should be enough for now. This jar will have about that much clear liquid on the bottom of it, and the tomatoes will rise to the top. So I think I might have added a little bit too much there. So we're going to kind of put that down there. Now we're going to add a little bit of liquid, and then we're going to push out the water, the air bubbles that are in this. This is our air bubble and headspace tool. Just kind of go all the way around the whole jar, and you can watch the bubbles rise to the top. It is important to get the air out from the middle of the jars. Okay, so now you can see with what I did there, getting those air bubbles out even, we need to add a little bit more liquid to the top because tomatoes call for a 1/2 inch headspace, which is why you need this little fancy tool. You could eyeball it, but the headspace tool makes it a lot easier. The second step is a 1/2 inch, so we've got another 1/4 inch to go on our liquid. And again, like I said earlier, we are doing this in quote unquote their own water or their own juices. Okay, you'll notice that in the books. Just a little bit more. Okay, next step. Very important step. Very, 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 very important step. Clean towel. You want to go around the sides, but most importantly,
Get a good seal.
you want to go around the top, because if there's any tiny microscopic little bit of a chunk of a tomato there, it might not seal, and that would be a waste. You'd lose your whole jar. So I'm going to use my magnet here, and I'm going to get this out. I'm actually going to, we forgot to heat this up, so I'm just dumping that in the warm water there. Stick it on with your little magnet, shake off the water, put on the band, finger tight. You don't want to go too tight, just finger tight, okay? And then I actually can go ahead and set these in the water. I'll probably just wait till we get all the other ones out. We've got...
Let's just do one more jar real quick.
So you get the feel of it, and we'll do a bigger jar. We'll do
Wide mouth.
Wide mouth.
Wide mouth is for a whole tomato. Some are just gigantic.
Right. All right, so let's not forget all of our steps here. We want our salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. We want 2 tablespoons of vinegar or lemon juice. Probably could use lime juice. It would just give you a different flavor. You could use that in your salsa.
A lot of people use lime and salsa.
So here we go. Just again with your slotted spoon.
Just it goes faster. You know, Michelle talking, it seemed like
It's going to go really, really fast, and you will find that your big giant haul of tomatoes gets reduced down to a small amount of jars, which on the one hand can be a little bit disappointing, but on the other hand it makes you feel good that you're able to fit that much inside. So I think we can go a little bit more. Put a little bit more tomatoes in there at the top. Now, if you're doing like we are, and you've got some yellow tomatoes in there, or maybe you've got purple tomatoes or different varieties, it really makes for a nice look to the jar. That might be a
colorful jar.
Much. A colorful jar. So I'm going to leave that on and pull some of that out. Because I want to be able to cover, it's really important to be able to cover the whatever you have in your jar with the liquid. So we're gonna even take some more of that out because we want our headspace to be proper. So let's get our bubbles out. Bubble, bubble, bubble. Around the edges. Tap that in there. And now we're just gonna add liquid to our 1/2-inch headspace. This liquid is not water. It is tomato juice. It is the juice that has come from these tomatoes, and they're being processed. I mean, obviously there's probably a little bit of water in there, but mostly it's just the juice of tomatoes. So when you're cooking with this, go ahead and throw the whole jar in. Oops, there we go. On the money. Go around the edges and around the top. Again, this should be clean. And then now we're going to grab a wide mouth lid. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and dunk it in this hot water just to be sure. If you are using the new Sure Tight lids from Ball, you do not need to and should not put them in the hot water. And with these ones, you don't want to get them to a boiling either. You want them to be just right. So here we have it, and we'll show you when they're finished so you can see the difference. Stick around. All right, so we have put our jars in the water, and we're gonna leave this lid on until it starts boiling. It's just about there, but we're gonna go ahead and put our timer on for 45 minutes. And then it should be done, and we will show you guys that when they come out of the water. And just like that, not only do we have tomatoes and pickles, but we have pickles and tomatoes and peppers. You didn't know that was coming because we're going to use the same ending for both. Because yesterday we did our pickles our tomatoes, and today we processed pickles, and Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peppers. Here we have our fermented pickles here in our little special burping lid. So this is what we were talking about with the tomatoes, how it'll separate a little bit and there will be like a watery juice on the bottom. This is fine. It's perfectly natural. So that's why you want to get your tomatoes packed as tight as possible. Then here we have with our pickles, you can see just how nice that looks. Usually with your pickles, and Patriot Gallery, how long did we process these for?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. That's not long at all. But usually with
Well, wait a
pickles-
minute. Let me just correct it. It's pints are 10 minutes, quarts are 15.
So these were 15.
And the tomatoes were 45, and I don't know what it is for pints, but quarts is 45 minutes.
Okay. You can look that up. We'll put links in the description here. But with your pickles, you will want to wait and let the flavor set. I want to say it's 2 weeks. Is that about right?
That's what they told me.
2 weeks. You can eat them before then, but they will really reach peak flavor after 2 weeks. So I hope you guys have enjoyed following along with us in our process for making tomatoes fresh from our garden and fermented and processed pickles and pickled peppers. You try to say that 10 times fast. Good luck. And I hope that you guys will be able to do this at your home from God's little acre to your little acre. We love you guys. God bless.
I was called